Hey, thanks for clicking on this video. I know you have a lot to choose here on the internet, and also picked up a few more subscriptions this week. So thank you for subscribing to this channel of music and toys and all kinds of junk related stuff. What we're going to do is the top or first 5 records that I bought or that I remember buying as a kid. It was a long time ago. I'm creeping up on a pretty big birthday coming up, so I'm going to feel really old really soon. So it's kind of a time to reflect. I bought a little Grimace Pop today. Really doesn't have to do anything with music. I just, it's a stage set. I wanted to brighten up the stage set. So music, albums, records, vinyls, whatever you're calling them, they are really creeping up. It's taken me by surprise. I knew they would come back because I think people, everything goes in circles in life, it seems. And so it seemed like people were purchasing things online and it was just a file, and there wasn't anything to hold or really to look at. And of course, older people like me were always collecting albums, and it just seemed to go full circle where you started seeing them in a few stores and in a lot of stores, and then here I think it's the top selling format, if I'm not mistaken. Will it be this way? It'll be this way for a little bit. So in 5 years, if I'm still around or playing this video, I can go back and say, you're wrong, it's still huge, but something tells me it's going to peak in a few years and then slowly come back, and which I'm all for. I'm all for if it slowly came back, or if it slowly collapsed now, so albums can return to a normal price, because everything is skyrocketing. Anyway, speaking about albums, speaking about being old, speaking about going back, the first piece of music I remember is Kiss Alive 2. This came out in 1978, and I always had the 8-track. Upstairs, the house where I grew up in Hillside, Illinois, just outside of Chicago. We had a stereo system that was really old and really kind of scary. If you turned volume or power on, if you touched any two knobs at the same time, it was about an 85% chance you were going to receive the shock of your life. So I would play Kiss 8-track in that all the time. And I think there's 1 or 2 songs here. As it ends, it goes beep and it goes to the other side. So a song will actually fade out, hear a loud beep, hear the changing of the tracks or the channels, and then it starts up again. Like people today, you wouldn't put up with that. You wouldn't put up with half your song being played and then listen to the other half. But Kiss Alive 2, this 8-track, this is the original one from me as a kid, and I played this so many times. So it's not an LP, so it's not on the list, but I couldn't have a list about stuff I listened to in my childhood if it wasn't, if I didn't include this. As well as I got those 4 Kiss solo LPs pretty early on too, but I didn't include them on the list because I couldn't recall. And I'm wearing a Kiss shirt, so I didn't want to overload on Kiss. Alright, so let's go with the list. Number 1, the first record I remember purchasing with, I used to have a paper out, and also I got an allowance for, my parents were pretty strict with chores, so I did a lot of chores as a kid, and I would get like maybe $2 or $3 a week, and I know I saved up. And I want to say this was like $5 or something, but I bought it AC/DC High Voltage from 1976. I don't know if I bought it in 76. I'd only been 5, but I could have been cruising around the flea market. I know I bought it from a woman at a flea market who had some LPs for sale, and I've been tuned in to AC/DC. A close friend of mine lived across the street, was a few years older than me, so from his older brothers and my older brothers, I always kind of knew of more mature music than what a little crappy kid would normally be listening to. So I was familiar with AC/DC, and at this time, this was the first release here in the U.S., Australia. I think they had an album called TNT, and they had their own cover of High Voltage, which I own. I've shown that in a previous video. But for the U.S., this was our intro to AC/DC, and I just loved it. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll singer, the Jack, Livewire, TNT, Can I Sit Next to You, Little Lover, She's Got Balls, and High Voltage. I would play this over and over, and I would read these little letters. I assume they were true. They're probably not, but I would assume they were true as a kid, and I would read them, and I'm like, man, I want to be a rock and roller when I get older because I want people to think I'm cool. I mean, how cool is that? You're a lightning bolt. And be sure in the comments below if you want to hashtag a first five LPs, whatever. In the comments below this YouTube video, be sure to let me know if you can recall the first 5 albums you ever had. Another one I had within the top 5 was Rush. Came out in 1976. I believe I got it shortly after that, 2112. Now this is why I love LPs, and I've collected LPs forever and ever and ever for this simple reason. When the LPs have a gatefold, and you can open it up as you're playing it on your turntable and just read the lyrics, read where it was produced, and it just takes you on a little journey. You can look at all the pictures, of course. Rush, they took a lot of flack for wearing these little robes. When I was a kid, I just thought, man, are they like aliens, like part Canadian, part alien or something? This is amazing. And of course, side one is just one song, like in 2112. It's like a classical overture of rock. It's awesome. It tells a story of like a planet. But anyway, it takes you on a journey of a planet that tells you that, just do what we say, stay away from that rock and roll music kind of thing. And for me, it was awesome because I was like, no, rock and roll forever. Destroy the planet elders. You have not resumed control. So the artwork, everything sold me on 2112. And I'm a Rush fan forever. I just love the band. They're in probably my top 3 groups of all time, and that's what started it all. Now this one would be one of the first ones in a trio now that I've stolen from my sisters or brothers. I was the youngest little brat, and I grew up with older sisters and brothers, so I'd always borrow their albums. My sister had Journey Next, which is the album before this, and then she bought this one, Infinity. I believe it's Journey's 4th album overall, but it's the first one with Steve Perry, and came out in 1978. And I just would hear Wheel in the Sky, and it didn't take me long to realize that I would appreciate this album a lot more than my sister would. So I swiped it from her, and I would just, Something to Hide, La Doo Da, Open the Door, Feeling That Way, that's such a good song. Winds of March, Lights, it's a great song. Patiently, Can Do, Anytime. I mean, this is just, if you're in a journey and like Open Arms and Don't Stop Believing and all that stuff, but you haven't checked out their like earlier stuff, for sure check this out. This, like I said, it's the first one with Steve Perry, so you'll hear that familiar sound of Journey, but it's just great. Infinity. Now this one changed everything, because after I took this one, I went to see Cheap Trick live, and they still remain my favorite group, and they still remain, although no one's playing live now, still in 2021, but my favorite group to see. They're just amazing. So Cheap Trick, Dream Police came out in 1979. My sister bought it, soon stole it from her. I think I told her I had to do some class project on rock and roll or something stupid like that, so I had to borrow it for a while, and then of course I never gave it back. This is a perfect album. I think it's one of the best rock and roll albums of all time. Artwork is amazing. Got the Cheap Trick boys there all dressed up as Dream Police. Dream Police, Way of the World. Way of the World, they don't play that on classic rock radio as much as like Dream Police and stuff, but they really should, because it is an amazing song. It's probably my favorite song from Cheap Trick. It could be one of my favorite songs of all time. The House is Rockin', that one's pretty good. Gonna Raise Hell, I'll Be With You Tonight is awesome. Voices is great. Writing on the Wall. I Know What I Want is another one with Gonna Raise Hell that are just good songs, not excellent and perfect. Need Your Love is also another amazing song. So this is a great album. Cheap Trick does not get the credit that they deserve. They're huge in Midwest, but they should just be huge all the time, all over, 24/7. Cheap Trick. Well, last but not least, of the top 5, or the 5 albums that I got earliest, Ozzy Osbourne, Blizzard of Oz. My brother had this. My brother liked Chuck Mangione, Billy Joel, stuff on the lighter end of things. And when I saw this, he had it in his collection, because him and my sister each had these like plastic milk crates of their albums. I pulled it out and put it in mine, because I thought I would appreciate it a lot more than him, again with my little snotty rock and roll attitude. But Blizzard of Oz is Ozzy's first. Of course, he left Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath left Ozzy. Whichever way you look at it. I Don't Know, Crazy Train. I mean, that's just an iconic song. Goodbye to Romance, D, Suicide Solution, Mr. Crowley, Noble Movies. I love that song. I wish, again, classic rock radio would play more deep tracks. Revelations, Mother Earth, Steal Away the Night, another great song. So this album, I remember just playing it over and over and over. And sometimes I would like put my schoolwork over the cover, because I didn't want my parents getting mad if they thought it was too evil for me or anything like that. And I would just keep playing it over and over and over. So this album was it. And of course, the first 5 albums that I got, this little list here, it wouldn't be complete unless I had an honorable one to throw in there, and that's Billy Squire, Don't Say No. I played the hell out of this record, as well as when MTV would start a few years after this came out, because this came out in '81. A few years after this came out, MTV would play his clips, way back when MTV would play rock and roll, and way back when MTV would play music. So this album stuck around for a while, and all the songs in it. In the Dark, The Stroke, My Kind of Lover, You Know What I Like, 2 Days Gone, Lonely as the Night, What Do You Want From Me, Nobody Knows, I Need You, and Don't Say No. He had a string of just great albums, but this one, I mean, you can see how worn it is. It just was on my turntable forever and ever and ever. And I just a little time capsule for you, taking back to the first 5 albums I owned to the best of my knowledge. Thanks for watching. Like I said, please leave in the comments below what you think your first 5 were. Thanks.